Hey everyone, Eugene here, and welcome back to the Home Gym Hacker. Today I'm reviewing a new accessory from GetRx'd, which is their lat pull and low row pad, as can be seen here. If it's your first time here, I make videos about home gym equipment and how we can modify it to make it even better than it came out of the box. And a quick disclaimer, I am not affiliated with GetRx'd, so if you were to buy one, I'm not going to get any kickback. So you know this is going to be an unbiased review. So if it's great, I'll tell you, and if it's a piece of junk, you'll know. The RX3 lat pull and low row pad is an accessory that's designed to attach to standard 3x3 uprights with 1-inch holes. Here you can see it attached to my RX3 single stack cable tower, but you can attach it just to about any compatible rack. Now, this thing weighs about 25 pounds, so it's definitely not a lightweight. And what that really means is if your wife or your girlfriend wants to use it, that means you're going to be the one who has to set it up for her. Now, it's primarily designed as a leg holder for doing lat pull downs and a foot pad for doing low rows, but you can also get creative with it. You could do Nordic curls, Bulgarian split squats, or you could just sit on it like a bench and ponder the mysteries of life, or maybe even just engage it in some lively debate. So, how do you think the current administration's trade policies will impact the future of gym equipment manufacturing? One of the coolest things about this accessory is that it brings the same sort of functionality that you would normally find only on dedicated lat pull down and low row towers, such as the ATX Trinity or the Fringe Sport Walrus. But instead of taking up half of your garage space with a dedicated lat pull down and low row tower, this gives you the same sort of locked in pull down feeling and solid foot plate for low rows, which you can now do off of your bench without needing the commercial gym space type of a footprint. Now, let's take a look at the construction of this accessory. Here we see where it attaches to the rack, and there are two holes on the side for the security pin. This hole is designed for European racks that use 1.75-inch spacing, and the other hole is designed for racks that use 2-inch spacing like most racks you see in the US. It also comes with this very nice mag pin as part of the package. And then we have the sundial, which controls the position of the pad, and it's attached here with the bearing, which is very smooth. There are laser etched numbers along the sundial, so you can remember what position you have your accessory set to. Then we have the actual rollers here with pretty nice feeling upholstery, and wrapping around them is this foot pad, which is used to brace yourself when you're doing your rows. Now, some of the features that are worth calling out about this unit are here we have UHMW plastic all around the contact points of where it touches your rack, which is pretty standard for accessories these days. As I mentioned, there is a bearing here that is very smooth and solid, so this feels pretty premium. It mounts to the rack with a forward-facing pin, which is nice because that means you can pull out the side pin and not have to worry about this thing falling down and breaking your foot. And it makes again, mounting and unmounting it pretty easy, unlike certain other accessories, which shall remain nameless. The pad upholstery is very good. I'd say this feels like the same sort of vinyl that I've seen Rep using on things like their GHD and other products. And the firmness of the rollers is pretty good. It's not too hard, not too soft. It's just right. Now let's talk a bit about the fit and finish. Overall, it's pretty good. The only complaint that I have is the tolerances for where it mounts to the rack. They're a bit loose. The side effect of that is there is a bit of wobble side to side and forward and back. And you don't really feel it when it's under load, but it's there, and I do wish that some of it was a bit tighter. That being said, because they use UHMW all around, which is bolted on here, This is something you can improve as a DIY project, which I may take on in the future. Basically, I would take off the UHMW pads and add some shimming behind them if I wanted to make it a tighter fit and not have to deal with that wobble, which, as you know, let's face it, is definitely going to be triggering my OCD every time I use it. The foot plate is very sturdy and the steel looks very thick. This is definitely thicker than 11 gauge steel. I would say it's maybe a 1/4 inch or thicker, and it can definitely take my full body weight. Generally, it feels pretty premium and doesn't feel like a cheap product. Now, let's talk about the performance. First of all, as a leg holder for pull downs, this thing's fantastic. You get a ton of adjustability. There are 9 different positions on the sundial, and you can also change the height of where you mount it on your rack. And have you ever had this experience where you go to a commercial gym and try to use their leg holder, but then one peg is too tight, whereas the other one is too loose? Because this accessory has 2 points of adjustment, you can really dial it in exactly where you need it to be. Because if you find yourself between pegs on one of the adjusters, like the sundial, you can always experiment by moving it either up or down a peg on your rack, and then experiment with a different combination of the sundial settings and rack holes. And because of that, I'd say the adjustability on this is actually better than you would find on a dedicated piece. Also, it's very comfortable. As I mentioned before, the upholstery and the density of the rollers feels great. So as a pure leg holder, this thing is awesome. It really makes doing pull downs a joy. Well, as much of a joy as they can be while you're tearing your lats apart. Now let's talk about the other main exercise it's made for, the low or mid rows. Here, it's good, but not great. The main thing I wish I had more of was distance away from the rack. So if I use a really short cable attachment that doesn't add much length to the cable, then I can still get a full stretch. But if I want to use any kind of a variety of attachments or anything that adds some length, getting the right amount of stretch starts to become an issue. Now, this will also vary a lot depending on what your cable pulley setup is like and where the pull point on your system is. So if you're able to set your pull point further back, then this may not be an issue for you. I found that if I want to use some variety of attachments, that I have to do something like put yoga blocks in front of the foot pad in order to get the sort of stretch that I want when doing flexion rows. That said, here's the obvious upgrade. Now you can do your rows on a bench and not on the floor like some kind of a chalk-covered peasant. Smithers, bring me my caviar. We are low row royalty now, after all. But seriously, it does actually feel much nicer to do low rows on your bench than it is on the floor, and you can also transition between doing pull downs and rows really quickly and easily because of the versatility of this accessory. So yes, the distance away from the rack could be improved, but I think that's an acceptable sacrifice for all the other benefits that you get with this accessory. And if you're getting tired of doing the same old exercises every time, let's just say you have the flexibility to experiment with some more exotic row varieties. Now, while it isn't marketed as such, there are other exercises you can use this pad for. For example, you can flip it upside down and use it as a leg roller for doing Bulgarian split squats or similar exercises. Another really great use for this pad is for another exercise where this accessory really shines are Nordic curls. It's really awesome for locking your feet in when doing Nordics. In fact, I'd say it can hold my legs down tighter than my dedicated Hyper Pro that's resting in the corner over there. It gives you a lot of flexibility for how to regress them. Because you're doing it off a rack, it's easy to attach a resistance band if you want some additional assistance, since Nordic curls are pretty hard movement. You can even use your cable, or if you have an FID bench, You can even limit the range of motion by doing your Nordic curls on the bench. It's a really great attachment to train Nordic curls without having to invest in a dedicated Nordic bench. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, the price. As of the time of recording this retails for $170, but is currently on sale for $153. Now, if you buy it as part of a package with either a cable system or a rack that's one of their RX3 systems, you'll get shipping for free, as it will be included in the freight shipping. If you're just buying this accessory and you're not purchasing it as part of a larger bundle, then you're going to pay an additional $50 or so for shipping. My zip code, it was $48. So now that puts us into the $200 to $220 price range, which is kind of steep. Now, if this costs something like $120 to $130, I think this would be a total no-brainer. At $150 to $220, depending on your situation, you really have to think about whether this is something that is worth your money. And frankly, at that price, I almost expected to have a built-in Bluetooth speaker and do my taxes in April. If you like the idea of consolidating accessories and you want to do your pull-downs and your low rows on the bench instead of the floor, then this might be a great accessory for you. And if you would like to add Nordic curls to your training program, then this accessory might actually save you money in lieu of having to buy a dedicated Nordic bench. And I consider that a huge win. Overall, I think it's a great product, and I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. The build quality and versatility is awesome. The only real downsides are the price and the lack of distance away from the rack when doing low rows, but I don't think they're deal breakers. If you want to add lat tower like functionality to your rack, then I think this is a great accessory to consider. And hey, if nothing else, at least you won't have to work out on the floor like some kind of a chalky peasant again.